Venture Bridge Hub. So Venture Bridge Hub is the platform to connect founders and funders. This is what we do. We help founders with fundraising, market, strategy, and yeah. 7 years ago, I met a VC who told me that venture capital is a long-term relationship business. And oh boy, 7 years after, I feel it. I'm still building relationships today. Quick background about myself. So I was born and raised in Mauritius, which is a tiny island in Africa. Been in the US for 7 years now. Started my career in sales and then transitioned into banking, where I was working for an international French bank, where I was connecting startups with capital. After that, I was working for the government of Mauritius for 7 years, where I was leading investments into the island. Again, I had the chance to work with a lot of startups, corporates, multinationals, but also countries. And that's where I really felt that there was a funding gap, especially when you're not from the US. And there are so many insights that you could use from Silicon Valley and apply it to your own countries. And that's why we organized this event. So Tommaso should be here somewhere, one of our other co-founders, and she is out here too. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. The agenda is very simple, so we'll pass it to Naveen, who's the co-founder of Workwise. He's one of my dear friends now. He has such an inspiring story. Now I would love to tell you. But he has been supportive. He has been so supportive to me since day one. And then Tommaso will say a few words, and then we had a quick fireside chat with three amazing guests. Abby, Arisa, and Nuné. And then probably the most important part, which is the 1 minute introduction part, where you can just feel free to tell your stories. There may be founders in this room who may be able to help you, or co-founders, or investors, or future people who may be able to guide you. So feel free to use this platform as an opportunity to really just share your stories. Just share your stories. Yeah, without further ado, I will let now say a few words. Thank you so much for coming again.
Brilliant, thank you, Adeep. And first and foremost, welcome to Werqwise. It's a pleasure to have you all here. As Adeep said, my name's Naveen. I'm not sure my story is that inspiring, but I'm not going to tell it now, but you're very welcome to come and talk to me about it. My career has spanned private equity, venture, debt, most things involving money, as well as then becoming an operator with Workwise and a couple of other ventures that I'm involved in. If I'm looking wistful right now, it's because this location was opened in 2018 and we're closing it in March. And we're moving to 425 California Street, which feels like an upgrade for us, and 235 Pine Street. So I hope you'll join us for events there. Now I was doing some math, and I think we've done well over 1,000 events at this space. It probably would have been double that if it wasn't for COVID. And those events only happen at co-working spaces with people like Adeep. I call these people super connectors. These are the people who put time and effort and energy into making sure we all get to know each other and we're all in a position to help each other. These events also only happen because you've got panelists who are often really busy people who are kind enough and generous enough to come and share with us their knowledge and experience. And for me, as someone who's lived in London, New York, Hong Kong, and now the Bay Area, that's what makes the Bay Area special. That's what makes the Bay Area the best place to build a startup. So thank you all for being here. And without further ado, I'll pass it over to Tommaso. Where's he going? There he is.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Hello everyone, my name is Tommaso. And with Adeep and Shishir, we are organizing these events, so I'm one of the co-founders. One thing you might be interested in is that I'm also the co-founder of a company called Frontier Space, and we do something quite unique. The reason why I'm telling you this is because when we started, we thought that what we were doing was impossible. Let me tell you what we do. So basically, we built labs, so small laboratories. We send them to space to use microgravity to do pharmaceutical research, to develop new drugs, new material, biotech, stuff like that. So we send them in orbit, in space, And then we have those slots sold to pharmaceutical companies. They get the data and they develop new drugs, new medicine, new treatments for Earth. So when we started, this was 2021. When we started, this was like widely spread in the aerospace community. I'm a rocket scientist myself. But it was almost unknown in the pharmaceutical sector. So we're like, okay, we know that this is possible. There's like huge benefits of doing this. Cancer research, anything related to aging. Aging is like 20 times faster if you go to space. So anything related to osteoporosis, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease. If you get these together, these diseases together, and if you can find a treatment or a cure, that would be a huge step for humanity. So we said, okay, what can we do to help companies? So we figure out a way to find, to build and launch, operate, and all the logistics, a small lab that allows them to do this easily. So they can do it cheaper and faster. I'll cut it short, but yeah, one thing that I really believe in is that if we want to build a network, thank you for being here first of all, but this is not like all the other events in SF, or at least this is not how we intended it to be. We know that building trust and building a network means it's like watering a plant. If you just put the seed in the soil and you don't water it, the plant will never grow. So what I really stand for is when you build something with someone, build a connection, just foster it on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, not only when you need it, not only when you're fundraising, just keep the connection.
So without further ado, let's start. You all have exceptional stories. Let's start with why are you excited about startups or VC?
So thanks for having us. This is a great question. Why
you're excited about this industry? Yeah, you've been in VC for a while. I've seen so many innovation and technology happening. So
I think for me, I've always wanted to build things. So working with founders has been a great way to do that indirectly. As an investor, if you can be a founder, the next best thing is to be an investor in those founders. From a risk-adjusted standpoint, it's a great gig if you can get it. Also getting to work very early with these founders and watch them and help them change the world. There's no better calling out there.
That's an amazing answer. Arisa?
Yeah, so in my life, I actually never really imagined myself to be a VC or investors because I was always in the startup side. And then whenever I met the investors, it was very intimidating. I was like, not gonna be like, but when I did a lot of operational thing and in a scale, I was more go-to-market strategies for one of the early members for Immigrant companies. And then I just figured out there's a huge gap between the investors and founders. So, wanted to be the person who fixed that. Because investors are always looking for the great project. And then the great project founders is always looking for money. So why can't we just fix the gap? And then why some people getting grumpy when someone is getting, pitching the idea and like, well, that's, the investor has to be like, also provide support before just expecting someone to be the perfect. So that is the story, and then somehow I just landed this job, and then I'm loving it. And I love learning new things, I love meeting people, and then I love connecting those resources and talent and then opportunities.
Absolutely, and you have an interesting background too. So I was looking, you were born and raised in Japan, and you were born in the US and then you moved to Japan, and then you have been working globally and doing so many things, which is really impressive, by the way.
I was born in US, but I never really lived here because when I was 3 years old, my family went back to Japan, so mainly I grew up in Japan. But a lot of my Japanese people consider me as not the typical Japanese. I take this in a compliment, but I love traveling around the world, so I went to the really emerging market, Philippines, and living there like deep inside of the mountain, doing a non-profit work when I was a student. And then I also went to India, and then visited my friends, and then, kept going, and then for the new year, I just visited Pakistan for the wedding. So keep learning stuff. It's very great because when you meet the founders here, especially, very diverse. You gotta have the local, I don't know, perspective because nobody is understanding if you don't really go there and understanding the issues, the daily life. So yeah, so going back to the point, somehow my passion to travel around the world is now really helpful to understand the perspective.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Nuné, why are you excited about VC or startups?
Is this working? Oh. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. For me, I just love helping people to bring their ideas to life. I think it's there's a magical period when people, anyone, a founder has an idea and then they start working and then they find their first customer and then they find their second customer. It's a magical time and then they find product market fit. And I want to be a support system for them. So in a way, because again, as we mentioned, there's a big gap between investors, the connections they have in all over the world, the connections the founders have, and the money that is available for allocation. So I want to bridge that gap as much as possible and support the founders in bringing their ideas to life. That's my...
Absolutely, no, that is exactly. I think in the Valley, there's so many opportunities in the Valley. I've been here for 7 years, I've seen there are so many innovation happening. I came here before OpenAI in November 2022, and now the innovation happening after that is it's just exponential. There's just so much innovation and technology happening in the city, the diversity of the city. That has been one of the best decisions of my life, really. Just being in the Valley and learning so much from like-minded people. It makes you grow as a person. So by show of hands, how many startups do we have here? Okay, perfect. So this question would be amazing. So when and how should startups fundraise? Is there an ideal time for startups to fundraise? Are you looking for any specific criteria, or what do you feel?
I think with startups, you ask when's a good time to raise. I think you always want to try and put your best foot forward, right? Someone said, much more experience than me, with startups, I think it's like peeling an onion, right? You want the layers to it. So at each stage, you want to prove that you've had some progress, you have to have something to show. It gives you more credibility. Investors are more receptive. It's often better than just coming to an investor with I just have an idea, you have nothing to show for it, right? Doesn't matter how much traction you had, but it just shows seriousness. Oh, I have a prototype, I have some customers, or I've signed up for this or that, or I've gotten a team. But it just has to something that shows that this person just wasn't sitting in his bed. I just had a very good idea because particularly in SF, a lot of founders here. There's a lot of competition, right? A lot of folks with great ideas, both genuine or they're driven by FOMO. So you have to find a way to stand out, right? And how do you stand out? A lot has to do with either the things you've done in the past or the traction you have today. I'll give you an example. There's one of my LPs, and he's also the founder. This is like his third startup. He's had 2 successful exits. People are begging him to take their money, right? So those are the kind of guys you're competing with, right? So if you just come in with just an idea, you're just gonna struggle. So if there's ways you can validate what you're doing or show seriousness, I think it's great law. And particularly in SF, I was going to also say, because you might be, Tommaso is Italian, or some other parts of the world where, tech and entrepreneurship, there's entrepreneurship here, the grocery store and all that, but startups, where you don't have much competition, the idea you're thinking about a startup, puts you ahead. But if it's like SF, where it's commonplace, people have had multiple startups, they work with startups, you gotta show you're different. In anything you're doing, you have to have an angle that has to be different.
100%. Arisa?
I feel like a lot of people feel like you really need to raise money, but it really depends. Like, do you really need the money? Like, there's so many ways to do the fundraising. Like, for example, grant, like, or equity, and totally different scenario. And then, do you want to give up your percentage of equity? And how much? And then, like, what is the standardized, like, market price? But without knowing that, you can't really just, like, sell, oh, like, 10% for, like, 1 million. Like, well, you gotta really be careful, like, how you put the actual first fundraising is, like, gonna be affected for long term until maybe your company is successful, great, but then maybe could be the reason to be dead. But also another thing is if you have revenues and like, do you really need money again? So that's the myth. I think a lot of people just like feel like, oh, because I'm a startup founder, I have to raise money. And then whenever people see like, oh, this company raised like, so many $1 million, that's great. But what we actually see is like, how long can you survive? And then what is the burn rate? Like how much you're spending the money. And also, if you are bootstrapping for a long time, that's actually we value that. Wow, you survive. You know, that's not the easy thing. So, I mean, it's nice if you raise money, but again, like, you gotta have enough amount of friends who raise money, and then also enough amount of the investor friend that you actually can feel like comfortably asking the question, not just pretend like I'm a good founder and then like just selling. No, like just actual friends who are working in that industry. So again, there's a gap between.
Very interesting perspectives. Really, just makes sense. Some founders really do not need funding. Maybe they need mentorship, they need guidance, or they need access to a community of people. And actually, you're spot on. I think you can, Nuné, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I'll add something else. I think you both covered most of the founder, the seriousness, and the bootstrapping. It's a very good point to make because a lot of them just run into fundraising. What I'll say is depends on what stage you are. For example, do you have an idea? Do you have a conviction in this idea? Not just you, but potential customers. I would say start talking to potential customers. Are there anyone that can validate your product or idea and MVP at this stage? Getting to an MVP, meaning viable product, is very easy. You can just, on a level, you can just create something and show to these potential customers. If you can have some good number, it's a good signal for you to pursue further. The second would be talking to potential investors. Also look into your own strengths and weaknesses. If you want to fundraise, do you have enough network to go to and fundraise? Do you need to generate more warm introductions, or do you need to do cold outreach? In that case, you'll need to strengthen your good points in order to leverage that. But from the other perspective, to look into the market as well. For example, we just had the JPM conference, which is a very good time to fundraise for biotech and healthcare companies, and most of them, from all over the world, industry leaders, VCs and founders are coming forward specifically for this conference. And I think NFX last year, one of the partners, they published an article, the fundraising waves or cycles for founders, and I think it starts with JP Morgan in January. Everyone starts warming up, and then a couple of months into some other industries come into place. And usually they say that August is less, if we're looking into the timeline, August is less active, but you still need to keep going and talking to investors. And not necessarily just to raise money. Ask them not feedback for your product necessarily, because if they're not using your product, they're not your customers. They might not be able to provide very good insights. The customer is the main person to talk, or main data point for you. But just to see how the market evolves and what they see in the market, what's the what are the trends. So, and this is also a way of generating relationships, starting nurturing the relationship with VCs rather than just jumping into a conversation. I need the VC money, I need some investments from you. Just starting warming up these connections, and then when you have the market conviction or market validation, when you know how to tell your story, you have already a pitch deck, or even if without the pitch deck, you have the data that you can show, or market evidence that you can show, that, oh, this is, I'm serious about this, and you can, people are getting conviction, and then you start to prepare for the fundraising, rather than just jumping into, oh, I need the money, and start away. But a very good point on the burn rate, and also bootstrapping, and also seriousness. You never, I would say, it rarely happens. It happens in Silicon Valley. It happens. You see an investor at the bar, you start talking, and then they write a check or something, and you close the deal right away. We've heard these stories, right, on a tissue paper. But those are serendipitous moments, and you don't want to rely on those moments. You just want to be so much prepared that when the opportunity comes, you're able to present yourself. That would be my take on, yeah, good luck with the fundraising. It's a Hunger Games.
No, those are very interesting perspectives, which brings me to my next question. I think the audience will love this. So, how can founders from non-US geographies position themselves in Silicon Valley? How can they differentiate themselves? Is it, I don't know, the product, the traction, the referrals, the network, the community? What's the best way to get investor attention, especially for non-US founders?
I'll just start because I also relate. I'm coming from Armenia, a faraway country, and I'm mentoring different international acceleration programs, and this is something I keep on coming back every time I talk to a founder. One of the things that I would suggest, first of all, we have, thanks to social media, you can create your own content and you can generate millions of views in a matter of minutes. Twitter is a very good, or X is a very, very good platform. Start with there, and some of that, I've talked to some of the investors, and some of them are paying a lot of attention to social media and how you present it. It's not just and I know that a lot of founders struggle with that too, like, oh, I don't want to put it there, and I understand there is a founder mode stage where you need to log in and just build, and then there is a stage where you need to present what you're doing, but try to find the balance. If it's working for you, just keep it going. The next, accelerators are an amazing platform to launch yourself and start building relationships in the US. Just look into the accelerators either in your local neighborhood. For example, Plug and Play has a lot of presence, or Draper University is doing an amazing job bringing a lot of international founders. So look into the local, your geographies, and see what kind of accelerators, international accelerators are there, and those could be very good gateway for you to the US. And next, yeah, you just come for a visit during a conference or during a busy season when, for example, SF Tech Week or JP Morgan, which is very much related to biotech healthcare. If you're building something in that space, come during that time, because that's the best. That would be the best in explore. That would be my take.
Yeah, so for myself, the founders we interact at the Draper U Ventures are pretty much international, so including, of course, US founders, but also like non-US founders. And I've been supporting a lot of O1 visa, like whoever we have invested in. And yeah, it's pretty amazing that, I mean, not everyone needs to be based here, I would say, because it's pricey, of course. But whenever it comes here, the timing comes here, and you act like you're here. Like wherever you're from, just act like how other local people act like that. And this is a takeaway, me coming from Japan. lots of Japanese community is here, but then my non-Japanese friend recommended long time ago, like, Arisa, do not speak in Japanese to those people. Consider them as American. Like, and then you can show off wherever you are at, your value is here, and then, at some point, American people also, immigrated from somewhere, maybe over generations, but again, your values is actually maybe where you're actually from. And a lot of VCs here these days put a lot of attention to the emerging market, let's say Latin market, Africa, and so many places that we can do with the 100K. The value of 100K here versus 100K in the emerging market is huge. So that's also the reason, even though the business model might be similar to the company existing in US, but if we implement that same system in a different emerging market, you can even get the market. So again, actually, Dawood is he is originally from Ghana, and he actually the one who attended our accelerator, which I led last year, over a year. So now he is in great community builders, and yeah, that's what we talk every day.
So I think from my perspective, I'm international as well. I think a lot has to do with signaling. You gotta show people that you care. The fact that you've come all the way to the Silicon Valley, to SF, it shows ambition, shows intensity, shows you're different, and you care a lot about this. So that's already the first step. Then, like you said earlier, you gotta, when you're here, you gotta act like you belong, right? And I think you also have to find a way, and I think I was having this conversation earlier with someone here, you have to have proximity to founders and capital. And by being in SF, you've done part of that, right? There's no point coming all the way here and spending all your time hanging out with immigrants that can't fund you, right? You want to be around the people that, maybe the dad is the country club president or something, right? Believer or whatever. So the ways you can get around the handicaps, you say be international brain, but you also have strengths, having come from an international background. The fact that you're here means you're resilient. It means you're very smart. You overcome a lot of obstacles to be here. So a lot of investors value that. They don't think you're going to be funky because you have that with a lot of US founders. It's like, oh, this is the next fad, right? And 3 months later, oh, it got too high and they quit. You hardly have that with immigrant founders. That resilience. So a lot of investors appreciate that as well. So the definitely advantages.
Interesting perspective. So do you think that if you're approaching portfolio companies, you have a better chance of, if you're approaching VCs, if they're approaching the portfolio companies or some VCs that you like, is it better to get referrals from them? Is it the chance of being funded is better if you know someone in the community or the accelerator? Or
for sure, referrals help, but you also have to be very deliberate. There has to be a connection. It has to matter. So I'll give you an example. There's a founder I connected to, a managing partner at a big health tech VC. But he's a health tech founder, physician, and very smart, doing great things. But that connection wouldn't have worked if there weren't any synergies between those two parties, right? No matter how warm the referral. But the warm referral ensured that this my founder friend got a beat, because I was looking at the stats on was it ChatGPT or Grok, and I think getting a meeting with the GP is like less than 5% chance, right? But there had to be a connection. So a lot of people just we'll get a warm referral, but this guy's have money in common. What's the use of referral, right? So you have to be careful about that.
so let's say we have you get a first meeting with an investor. What what do you talk about? Is it about your story? Is it about the traction? Is it about the product that you're building? What do you focus on just to get the interest of an investor?
I can start. So for myself, for example, like when we ran the accelerator, my job sometimes like having the more than 15 call, which is like interviews, initial call with the founders. So, and then unfortunately we cannot spend 1 hour for everyone. So sometimes it just has to be 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So I would say it's pretty important to prepare for a short amount of time, and also very quality. And let's say like, what is the phase of the business? Oh, you're iteration phase, or pre-seed, seed, or you have MVP, or you already have instructions. So it's very, very common and typical. You can prepare so many stuff. Also, simplicity, like what you build. Sometimes like, oh, you know what, oh, I understand. Very, because I'm not also good at it. But it's very important. One sentence, one liner. How would you describe your company? What do you do? How do you make money at the end of the day? It's pretty simple. And all of the data point, but also, especially in early stage, because of the business is not certain yet. So what we invest in is a person too. So you got a very short amount of time, but you gotta, gain some credibility. And how to do it is like, it's a mystery. I cannot talk a bit about it, but also being genuine. Like someone who really trying to be the surface level, I can tell immediately. But the same thing happens to me, it's a fair trade. So if anyone see the investor, oh, this investor is not good. So reputation among the founder is also going the opposite way. So I don't want you to feel like oh, disadvantage to be the founder. No, your good founder network is helping you because you will know who is a good investors and then, not really good investors. But at the end of the day, like putting the money and then you're giving away the equity is a fair partnership. So it's like a marriage, maybe more than that. You might want to break up, so you gotta just don't be desperate. The money is money, but then like where that money comes from is very important.
I was just gonna add that you don't always have to ask for money, right? You always have to make sure, is there a fit first? You don't get into a lift with a Series A investor, you're a pre-seed guy, and you're trying to pitch him from now to tomorrow. He's never going to invest. Always make sure that there's a fit alignment. Even if this particular investor is not a fit for you, build a relationship. You might be useful for another founder friend, right? Or that investor can connect you to one of his friends to invest in you, right? But when there's no fit, you're trying to force things. And when you try to force things, it just never works out. And that's why a lot of people struggle. You're just trying to force things. Don't force things.
I would want to add a couple of things to the point of desperation you went there. So first thing, agree, and that was also my point I wanted to bring. Make sure what kind of meeting is that. Is it a pitch meeting? Is it the first call with an investor that is planning on investing in you? There is a potential or alignment. In that case, you need to pitch very fast, like 3-4 minutes max. Make sure you give, within the 30 minutes, make sure you give some time for Q&A, because I've seen a founder pitch me 40 minutes. I didn't have any call. I was waiting to hear when it would end, and it was just go. And the slides were very overcrowded. You don't get to remember what he was talking to in the first place. So make sure you have your story aligned. Maximum 7 minutes would be fine, from 5 to 7 minutes. Slides don't overcrowd with a lot of words. We can talk about that later. But know your numbers. Whatever kind of investor meeting is that, if it's just a coffee chat, know your numbers prior. What's your burn rate? What's your how many customers you have? What's the bounce rate, or if it's not the website, or what's the churn rate? Whatever the numbers are, the metrics are, make sure you know all the numbers before the meeting, so that you're prepared whenever he asks the question. And also, not just your own, the company numbers, but also the market numbers, the competitors, all this combined. Do your own research on this investor particularly. I think we talked about social media, content, Substack, they provide so much content online. Just go and do some research on the investor so that you have more awareness if there is alignment between stage, thesis, vertical. Even if there is no, there is no potential in them investing in you, but there could be a good conversation to start. Very similar, a lot of people talk about investing as in dating. It's not that case. In dating, you don't know. When you go on a first date, you don't know anything about this person. You just start asking questions. But I would compare it to a job interview. If you ever have done any job interview, you want to compare, you want to learn as much about this company or this person as possible before you go there. So do your own research before that. Talking of the desperation, and I've seen this work, and I think all of us are going through different stages of life. It is very important, especially when the burn rate is almost non-existent. You have so many things that you need to take care of. It's very important to take care of your own nervous system and just not be desperate, because the desperation, people can feel the desperation. It's energy, right? And I'm reading this book, and I think it can benefit too. It's, I don't remember Hawkins, I think the pathway. It's called Let It Go, or the pathway to letting go, or something. And it's a psychologist who's talking about different stages of emotions. And this is also, I've heard it from investors too. When you're talking to an investor and you're very, very anxious, they can feel that, and it affects the conversation. So make sure you do some grounding before whatever works for you, either going to the gym or going for a run, or just be prepared, both content-wise or emotionally too.
These are some amazing advice. Thank you. So I have one more question, and then I'll leave some time for the audience to ask some questions. This might seem a tricky one. So, what's one question that founders should ask investors, but they rarely do? They never ask. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I'll say, again, a bit like marriage, you need to know if this your new partner coming on board, your investor, are you on the same journey? So you need to know, what kind of outcome are they looking for? Are they looking for a $1 million exit? Are they looking for a $1 billion exit? So both parties, there's no misalignment. Both parties are headed in the same direction. Because for you might just be comfortable with, a very simple exit, small business. I'm fine with, $40 million exit. Meanwhile, this investor to return their fund, you need to be a unicorn or a decacorn, right? So that has to be very clear.
One question, Arisa, that you're meeting with the founder, but you want them to ask you that one question because it's a relationship building business. You're working there not for 3 months, but 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. So, and there are always conflicts within firms. Team issues are a major part of why so many firms just do not work. It's funding too, but it's team issues too.
I think, well, thinking about the past conversation with the founders, I think actually maybe asking about a non-business question. Like, cause like that gives me the impression that, oh, this person is not just like looking at my title, but looking at more about the personality. And at the end of the day, like, again, like it's a long-term relationship. So it's very opposite. If you talk about the business less, sure, like you sometimes miss opportunity. There's a time maybe like there's a time you have to talk about it. But there's also another time that you shouldn't talk too much about the business. Instantly, hey, are you founder or investors? Oh, you're not the investor. Ciao, bye. And like, oh, okay. But like, this often happens. Like, oh, like I want to respect your time, so please let me ask about this question, what do you do? And one time I got stuck for 30 minutes. It was a waiting line for the events. So you have to stand there. And then the person who was like standing behind me, hey, what do you do? What do you do? What do you work for? And I was just moved here, and at the time I was already an investor, and we just casually talk about, hey, like I actually used to work with Plug and Play before, and I was talking about, oh, that's the investment VC. And then the person was pitching about the laundry machine to me. It was digital, something was maybe special, but to me it was just a laundry machine, sorry. But so I have to stuck in the line for 30 minutes. And it was pretty bad impression, to be honest. So respecting the time just as a human being. And maybe I smile, and then maybe he just considered that I'm very positive. So he wasn't even insisted me to visit to the office. But that was pretty misunderstanding. So, but again, like asking about the hobbies, what do you do, like hiking, cycling, that's a great way to connect. And then so many chance that if you go to the gym, like 80% of people work in the tech. And then someone who's working at the 3 p.m. in the South Bay, pretty sure they could be an angel investor for you.
I love it.
Yeah, a good point. And also coming back to our earlier conversation about the location or where to go, I do believe that if you want to get somewhere, you need to put yourself in the environment. Like you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I truly believe in that. So yeah, find a gym with a lot of angel investors or a cafe or a coffee shop. From my perspective, and I completely agree, right? You need to end the conversation on a positive note if you have time, or if there's the conversation flows and it's natural. If you've done their initial homework, like you've read some of their articles, blogs, you're following them on Twitter, or you've read some of their thoughts or how the logic works, I think the question to this specific question can come naturally. One question that you can ask is just out of curiosity, ask them what was the company that you wanted to invest but passed on and now you're regretting. That could be an interesting one. Another could be like, what are the activities that you love or enjoy doing with your founders outside of just cap tables and term sheets? That could be another one. But yeah, coming back, do your research and the answer will come naturally, I agree. True, like try to connect with them rather than just, again, if you were, just be curious about this person. If you're curious about them as if a long-term partner, I think you'll find the question to ask, the right question to ask.
100%. And then find the opportunity within their portfolio companies too. If you can collaborate with them, work with those portfolio companies, and just tell the investor in their first meeting, I'm interested with this portfolio company, we could work together. That helps too sometimes. So let's take some questions from the audience. Any questions?
Do a follow-up question. What do you guys think about C-Corp? Is it like necessary, is it like must-have for you to consider investing, or it doesn't matter? I'm very curious. What do you think? C-Corp Delaware.
C-Corp or Delaware?
Is it necessary to have structure here in Delaware or USA, or it can?
I think you're.
Or it
most
can be
of
like
the VC
Europe
prefer.
or other countries.
I know this is a challenge, frankly, but from the United States, I do believe that most of the VCs that are based here, they would prefer having Delaware corps for the. You might have like operational office there. You would answer because you would know, but yeah, that would be the preference. However, that being said, like don't just immediately open a big corps too, right? Like.
We run an accelerator, so we are pretty much accept anyone who don't have this Delaware C-Corp yet too. But if you really need to fundraise, and then the money is on the way to come to you, then I think it's much easier for you to get the Delaware C-Corp. But again, the timing wise and then having the early years, even though the person is not here yet, doesn't make sense. So yeah, have the tractions, then like you'll figure out whatever the situation, business in the US. But it's also, there are so many things that you can do.
Yeah, so I was going to add a couple of things. I'm going to be a bit harsh with you because you're an immigrant founder. You don't want to add more complexity to the conversation. Right? You're already coming from a foreign market. The guys who have the money here say they want a Delaware C-Corp, you give them Delaware C-Corp, right? So that's the first thing. So that conversation should no longer be on the table in SF. That hasn't been around for a long time. Everyone says this. Now, the issue with you still having that conversation is you're already behind your other immigrant founder competition. They're no longer thinking about structure. They're already executing. They're thinking about how they're going to raise their Series A. They've already passed you. You're still thinking about, oh, do I do this structure or that structure? You don't have that luxury. You gotta be on your A game. So all those kind of administrative questions, don't have them. That's what AI is for. Go do that research, right?
No.
We ain't doing that here.
But I would not recommend.
Thanks for the question.
This was a good response, but I would not recommend doing your legal work or legal research on ChatGPT because I was a victim of that. Like it provided very different. But what I would suggest again, like those decisions, if you can delay at the last minute. Like you get into an accelerator when you have the decision on the table. That's when you make the decision. Right now, it's just a theoretical conversation. Most of the VCs, they do prefer having Delaware work. Until you don't have the conversation, final conversation, just do your work. Like those things can be solved very easily within a couple of days or minutes. So they shouldn't be the bottleneck of the entire process of you performing here or getting funding. Just put your best face, do the work, and then when the time comes, solve that problem. And you will have the money to hire the legal people to help you solve all the issues. So, yeah.
She said it nicer.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, my name is Danishmir and I run a startup. I have a question about balancing, when you talk to a VC and you don't know him first time, maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes with him, and out of those 3 minutes you get 30 seconds to 60 second max attention span. This is again very contextual to my position here. The position is been building the startup for a while, for a year now. I have around 10 plus years of experience in this field. Now at ideation stage, of course, I will introduce myself, what I have done in this MIT. But now I have a product in market, I have traction, I have some revenue, not profit, but still some revenue. I don't have a lead investor, it's bootstrap. how do I balance when I'm talking, when I have those 30 to 60 seconds with English, between, hey, I already have revenue, and this actually happened in the conversation here. If you have revenue, why are you looking for funding? Versus, all right, I have a background, I'm building this something new, and I have a team. So how do I balance which way to go and what to say in that 30 to 60 second speech? Sorry for a long question.
Wait, so like balancing whether like you're raising money actively or
no, when I'm having that 1 minute conversation with VC.
Yeah, I think it's better to put the actual number if you want to like mention about the revenue, be clear like, oh yeah, I'm making like my ARR is like this within 2 years. And then you should also reach out online as well. At the same time in person and then online. And then like do massive like quantity wise and then you see the conversion rate and then you just improve. That's like something you can do online. But when it comes to the offline, you should be like balance between that, I don't know how, like immediately like a elevator pitch is like, whoa, like what are you talking about? So, I mean, when the pitch competition, yeah, great, but then be more, I don't know, small talk. Hey, have you been here before? Like, is it a good food? Something like that. That's my preference.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like when you meet someone, not immediately start, unless it's like a formal event, but still, not immediately start with your elevator pitch. Have confidence, but not the arrogance confidence. Have like, for example, right now you're talking and you're confused, and I know that you're struggling with that. But just find the value that you're providing to your customers. What's the value that you're providing? You're helping some people. Like, what's the audience? Find these people and the value, tell them this. Another example, or for example, where we are automating the entire dental industry, for example, because it's on the note stakes. It's very memorable. It could be memorable. The numbers at this stage might not be very helpful in terms of no one is going to remember the elevator pitch, but for example, Lovable, Anton from Lovable, he posted some that he looked out Lovable in the elevator pitch for YC startups at the, I think, last batch at fall. So he said, I like the founders where the founder, some startups use Lovable as an example for their elevator pitch, like Lovable for, again, dentistry, Lovable for this, Lovable for that. So you could use that because it provides a visual representation of what you're doing, but it's helping people to...
Marketing.
Yeah, and then, but just don't focus on that. Just tell about, yeah, I'm a founder, I have this experience. Just be confident and natural rather than don't stress out. And also, when you come up with one elevator pitch, try to be like very, very short, but test it out you're going to a lot of events, you're in San Francisco, so you would probably go to 10, 20 events within a week, but test it out with different people and see their reaction and who reacts how. Like if the people relate to what you're saying, it's probably a good one. If they don't, and then they start asking more questions or they don't understand, probably it's not a good one. So that could be more guiding.
How many minutes should it be? 1 minute, 2 minutes generally?
Oh, it's less than that.
Less than 30 seconds?
10 seconds,
10
20
seconds?
seconds. No, it's not one. If you 1 minute, it's too much.
Too much, yeah. 1 minute for whole conversation and 10 seconds for just...
Try it out. Try it out yourself. So when there is this show, Elevator Pitch, they are doing, I think they're doing a funny, very good thing. It's a short version for Shark Tank. People, they tell about what they're building. They do an elevator pitch in the elevator, and then the investors, sharks, decide if they're a good startup or just a good company to let them in front of them for the Q&A session or not. And then if they can come to this foyer or go down. Look up a couple of examples on YouTube. Like, luckily, you can use ChatGPT and Claude for this exercise. You definitely can do that. Practice. There are so many resources online. So practice. Wise also has a lot of resources. ChatGPT could be a very good coach. Yeah.
Thanks for a wonderful advice. My name is Mike, and my question, it's a big question, but I think I would like to hear from you guys. How involved do you get with the operations of your portfolio companies?
That's a good question to ask your VC when you're asking for money. I think it varies, but most VCs are heavily involved, which is why sometimes you might come for funding and it's not like they don't like your business, but they're already, is it over-engaged, or they already, they have too many companies already under their remit, so they don't have the bandwidth. That's the phrase. Because with every company you're investing in, it's going to take your time. As I said here earlier, it's a long-term relationship. So there's only so many companies we can invest in because it's operational intensive. It varies by investor, but I, for one, I enjoy the challenge of being involved with companies as they're building. I miss it as a founder. Just like storming the hills, that adrenaline, the excitement and the impact you're having. So I'm sure a lot of investors are very much involved, but that varies by firm. But by venture, I think, if it was private equity or hedge funds, very different. It varies by the asset class or the investor type.
So far, it's pretty, very hands-on. So our accelerator, so we have an 8-floored residency in San Mateo, downtown. When you drive the highway, you see the Drip University in the pink building. That's not the place, by the way. In the downtown, and then there is a co-working space with a Tesla reception, and then our Drip University campus. So that's where the 100 founders live in together from all over the world. And I actually, a lot of people are surprised, but I also live with founder. So they're my neighbors, and then we really hands-on, and then every single aspect of the life as a founder, we see that. And it's pretty much, so we let them connect with the founders, and the founders learn each other. And sometimes we talk about a very tough question or tough topic, like how we fire people, how we remove those people, how we find the people. But that is the decision that you have to make at the end of the day. And sometimes you can't really have the opportunity to talk about, because at the events, nobody wants to talk about how do you fire people. But yeah, if anyone interested in coming to see the Drip University campus, I will be there. So let me know. Other than that, I think it's hands-on.
I'm not an investor myself. I'm helping founders to get funding. So I'm very hands-on. I'm working with my clients on how to do the elevator pitch, for example, how to pitch. They pitch me in the beginning and they prepare. The way I work usually is I provide some frameworks depending on their needs. For example, one of them was very early. We started from the beginning, idea stage, and I provided different frameworks. The other one was struggling with pitching. We worked on that. The other one was coming from other part of the world and wanted to enter the US market. So the questions are very different, though, based on the needs, the exposure of different. Yeah, it's very hands-on for me. Very operational. I do the business development, go to market. I dive deeper into what they're building, into the markets in general to understand everything combined, and then understand who the VCs could be potentially to. and to work with them in the future. But that's a very good question, and also a very good angle to look into investments too. Just talk to, if you have in your network, any immediate network, or like friend of friend or connection, mutual connection, a founder that was invested by this VC, ask them what's the experience with them. Are they hands-on, or are they just bring the capital and just move on and leave you at the one thing that came up to my mind. So there's Ben Horowitz from Anderson Horowitz. He wrote this book, Hard Things About Hard Things, and she's talking about wartime CEOs and peacetime CEOs. You want to make sure that you have a support system for both, not just peacetime. So if you're getting into, if you have a crisis and you need to make the firing decision, you make sure that these investors could be someone potentially helping you. So you do your due diligence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the amazing questions. Thank you so much to the panelists. I think that it was really very informative. Now we'll move on to the 1 minute introductions. Please give a round of applause to our panelists.